New leaked documents indicate that the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, or I should say, from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence indicates that the United States government is very upset with the government of Mexico because they have the audacity to want to spend some of their, resources on the people of Mexico as opposed to spending those resources on the priorities of the United States government. I'm not kidding, that is what this leaked document indicates. Before we get to the details of the leaked document, let's talk a little bit about how The Intercept, which reported this story, obtained the document in the first place. So the leak comes from that young man, Jack Teixeira, who decided to leak classified documents in a Discord. Now, this was online, of course, and later he was arrested for doing this. There are other documents that Teixeira allegedly uploaded, but have not been officially confirmed. And the document we're about to cover belongs in that category. The United States government has confirmed some of the other leaked documents, but this isn't one of them. Now, The Intercept has been reporting on the unconfirmed batch of documents, and they're a pretty trustworthy outlet. They do great reporting. And so that's the reason why we're talking about this, but it is important to give you that caveat as we move forward. So that aside, let's get to the leaked document itself. We have an image for you. It shows you what the leaked document says. And an excerpt from it reads as follows. President Lopez Obrador's federal budget for 2023 gives priority to social spending and signature infrastructure projects rather than the investments needed to address bilateral issues with the United States, such as immigration, security, and trade. Lopez Obrador's meager investment in migration, security, and trade-related organizations will probably undermine Mexico's ability to follow through on commitments to stem the flow of irregular migrants and fentanyl to the United States and boost economic competitiveness in North America. So look, there is a lot to unpack from the two excerpts that I just read for you. For one, it is true that in recent months, especially, Lopez Obrador has decided to invest more in social spending in Mexico, and that has helped to make him very popular. So Lopez Obrador's 2023 federal budget presented to the Mexican Congress last fall does increase funding for social programs, including a significant raise for the pension provided to older Mexicans. It also prioritizes large infrastructure projects, which are mostly concentrated in southern states of the country. This social spending has been working out for him. His approval rating currently stands at 65%. And Lopez Obrador's government has also raised the minimum wage, something that the United States has failed to do since the Bush administration, provided cash and food assistance to older Mexicans, as well as scholarships for students nationwide. And by the way, it's worth noting that Obrador absolutely has played along with the United States immigration policies, and I'll get to those details in just a moment. But before I do, what do you make of this, Cenk?
So this lays bare who the United States government works for. So this isn't about Mexico, it's about us. And unfortunately, still the same guys. They work for corporate interests. So this is not a document that says these are national security interests for America. You can make that argument on the migration issue and the fentanyl issue, et cetera. But the business issue has nothing to do with national security at all. They're like, how dare, and why do you care about what Mexico is doing to invest in helping its own people? Why do you care about the minimum wage in Mexico being higher? How is that relevant to the American people, the American workers, the American voters, citizens, our national security interest? It's not relevant at all. But for the people who actually run this country, corporate interests, that is of great relevance. So all of a sudden, our national security documents are like, as Anna read to you, it undermined Mexico's ability to follow through on commitments to boost economic competitiveness in North America.
Yes, exactly.
The code word for that is you're supposed to be helping American business interests.
Exactly. So when you raise the minimum wage in a country like Mexico, which historically speaking has been exploited by US-based companies for their labor, well, it makes it a little more tricky to find cheap labor to exploit, right? Because all of a sudden the workers there now get paid based on the country's minimum wage there. And you also have to analyze this with the backdrop of what's currently taking place, the increased hostilities between the United States and China. There is this effort to move any type of business activity that US corporations might be doing in China to other countries. Now, Obviously, it would be far better if they bring those jobs back here to the United States. But of course, these corporations don't want to do that. They want to maximize their profits by being able to exploit the cheapest labor possible. So a lot of workers in Mexico were utilized for this process. And if their wages go up, that hurts the bottom line for these multinational corporations, for these US-based corporations as well.
That's why they talk about competitiveness in North America.
Right.
Okay, so wait, if you solve the migration issue and you treat your citizens a lot better, we might not get that cheap labor. We're not happy with this at all. But now, the second part of it, I think, completely gives away the game. So let me read you something from Earl Anthony Wayne, who served as US ambassador to Mexico in 2011, 2015. He said, what AMLO has been doing has been investing in infrastructure projects in the south of the country. That's a less of a priority for us because we trade mostly with the center and northern parts of the country where all the productive enterprises are.
Interesting.
So in other words, all there are poor people down in southern Mexico, and we can't make a buck off of them. I love this euphemism. The productive enterprises are in the north. So how dare you try to help the southern part of your country when you should be helping the business interests that do business with American companies in the north. By the way, imagine if Mexico said this about America. If they were like, how dare America help the southern states? They're not productive at all to us. We'd rather work with the productive and better northern states that are better at business and richer. We don't want to help the poor people of the red states. I mean, we would lose our minds. We would invade Mexico tomorrow, right? But this is our national security apparatus. That doesn't work for us at all. They work for multinational corporations. So as Anna told you, his Obrador's popularity is at 65%. Why? Is it, we pointed out minimum wage, pensions, scholarships for the young, all the things Joe Biden didn't do. Joe Biden gave everything to corporate America, and what's his popularity at? 35%. So he pretended to do student debt relief. He knows it's going to get knocked off by the Supreme Court and just gave away the interest rate issue on the student debt to Kevin McCarthy and the Republicans. He didn't do any of the promises on paid family leave, higher minimum wage, et cetera, et cetera. And so people were like, oh, you gave us nothing, so you're at 35%. Obrador, you gave us a lot, and you were supposed to serve us, and you did, and you actually are a president in a democracy, 65%. See, that's not that hard. And by the way, Obrador is not a saint. He's done a lot of things wrong, okay? Including, by the way, devastating parts of the rainforest. So I'm not doing like rah Obrador. He's got good sides and bad sides. I'm just telling you, raw politics. You do things for your own people, you're gonna be popular. If you do things for your donors like Joe Biden does, you're gonna be unpopular.
But
super obvious.
But in a country like the United States, where you have these establishments make decisions on your behalf in regard to who's gonna run, who's the appropriate candidate. I mean, like that's the thing, right? So it doesn't even matter how low Joe Biden's approval rating is because the DNC is going to force him upon us. Like he is the person 100%. That we have to vote for. Because if you don't vote for him, Donald Trump might get elected. And that's what every election has now turned into, right? Just fear mongering about the other side while fully admitting that they're gonna do nothing for you.
Oh, otherwise Donald Trump would get it. Wait, is Donald Trump in a Democratic primary? Because the Democratic primary is what's next. The Democratic primary is where you're limiting any good candidate that could beat Donald Trump. You're like, no. So no, it's because, and by the way, they're not even limiting the Gavin Newsoms of the world. They would love for him to come in. They only limit progressive challengers because they will not serve for corporate rule, and corporate media's job is to put you back to sleep and do propaganda and marketing on behalf of corporate rule. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.